Right now we're in Avondale, just outside of Phoenix, and we're about to climb what is called Monument Hill. So we've made it to the top of Monument Hill. It's not a bad hike at all, aside from it's summertime right now, so it is really hot and there's no shade. If this was in the winter, there wouldn't be a problem at all. But it's not very far up the hill. I'd say it's probably about 2/10 of a mile total. All uphill, of course, but it's not very steep, probably about 175, 200 feet of elevation gain. But here we are at the top of Monument Hill. So the main point of interest on top of Monument Hill is this, which is the baseline marker for Arizona. This is where the start of the Arizona grid is. This is where every piece of land in Arizona is measured off of. And here's the exact center of it right here. If you've ever been to Phoenix, you know how long some of the roads are. Off there in the distance is Baseline Road. You can see it lines up exactly with the baseline marker here. And Baseline Road continues across the entire Phoenix Valley all the way to the other side, but it's lined up perfectly with the baseline marker. And then to the north you have Avondale Road, and you get some pretty impressive views from up here. And there's the Phoenix racetrack down below. I imagine this is a pretty cool place to come up and watch the races. I'm sure there's probably a ton of people up here when that's going on. But yeah, it's some pretty awesome views up here. A few other points of interest up here. Here is a Army Corps of Engineer marker on the summit. And then over here, we got the National Register of Historic Places marker. And then on the baseline marker itself, there's a few other markers on here. State of Arizona Land Department, Central Chapter of the APLS, Salt River Project, Gila River Indian Community, dedicated to all landowners in Arizona by the Arizona Professional Land Surveyors. Originally set by A.B. Gray in 1851. And then here's the Department of Interior summit marker. So as the marker mentioned, this was originally set in 1851. And as I said earlier, this is where all land in Arizona is measured off of. This is where the Arizona grid starts. But what we're interested in finding is the geographic center of Arizona. And this, while it's the center for where all land is measured off of, is not the geographic center. For that, we have to travel about 100 miles in that direction. So, here we go. So here we are in Camp Verde, which is a really cool historic town that's been around since the 1860s. And there's a lot of historic buildings to explore here. And right next door is the Fort Verde State Historic Park, which looks really cool as well. Cactus Atlas did a really cool video on it, which I'll link in the description if you want to know more about the Fort Verde State Historic Park. It's definitely worth checking out. Like I said, I'll put a link to the description. But the reason that we're here is because somewhere in Camp Verde is a marker for the geographic center of Arizona. So let's try to find it. Not exactly sure where it is, but let's look around and see what we can find. I mentioned the town having a ton of history. Across the street here is the Montezuma Inn. It was originally known as the Red Star Saloon and was built in 1900. Over the years, the building had been a hotel, a cafe, a saloon. It was also the Trailways bus depot, and because of that, it was the first building in the town to have a public phone. And here's the Old Town Jail. It was built in 1933 by the WPA. Probably the most notable occupant in the jail's history was a pig that was arrested for vagrancy. There were two boys that ended up having to share a cell with the pig. They had to clean up after it. They learned their lesson after that and were never arrested again. So we're a little bit outside of the town of Camp Verde, and we found the Geographic Center marker. It's right behind me. So let's take a look at it. So here's a survey marker. And here's the actual monument. As you can see, it's a giant map of Arizona. And there's the Geographic Center. Now, the actual Geographic Center is really about 23.5 miles southeast of here, out in the middle of the wilderness. The Arizona Professional Land Surveyors, along with the governor of Arizona, made a determination that the town of Camp Verde is the closest municipality to the center, so they decided to put the marker for it here. But the actual Geographic Center is down the Verde River and out in the middle of the wilderness. And here's a sign about Camp Verde being the center of Arizona and how they determined where the center was. And I believe this picture here shows the actual center out in the wilderness. So here I am on the banks of the Verde River. There are bugs everywhere that are making this loud noise. I'm sure you can hear them. I apologize if they're drowning out my voice or you can't hear anything because of the bugs. But here we are on the banks of the Verde River. We're about 100 feet or so away from the Geographic Center plaque that we were just at. The actual Geographic Center is about 24 miles in this direction down the river. If we had a kayak or something, we could jump on the kayak and ride it down that way and get a lot closer to the actual Geographic Center. Unfortunately, we don't have a kayak. I've never ridden on a kayak. Jessica has. She's ridden on a kayak before, but not me. So not something that we're prepared to do on this trip. But yeah, if you wanted to hit the actual Geographic Center, you have to head out into the wilderness about 23 miles that way. It looks like down by the river here, they put up informational signs, but overgrowth is starting to take over them. This is the first one I've seen walking along down here, and it's out in the middle of the brush here. There's actually a pretty cool bridge over this way. I'm gonna see if I can get closer to it. I don't know, though. It looks pretty overgrown, and I don't want to run into any animals or poisonous plants, so I'm gonna be careful heading over there. Unfortunately, because I'm wearing shorts and there's all this overgrowth, this is about as close as I'm gonna get to that bridge. Here's a sign here. I'm not sure what it once said. This whole area is just really beautiful. The whole Camp Verde area is really neat. There's a lot of history here, a lot of cool historic buildings to explore, and the scenery is just magnificent. So if you get a chance to come to the Camp Verde area, even if you're not interested in visiting the Geographic Center of Arizona, which I'm sure not a whole lot of people are, when we stopped at the visitor center, they did mention we were the first ones to ever ask where it's at. But even if you're not interested in the Geographic Center of Arizona, Camp Verde is definitely worth a visit. So there you have it, the closest we can get to the actual Geographic Center of Arizona without taking a kayak at least. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing, and we'll see you next week.